Hello, and welcome to the second episode of What If Wednesdays. I am your host, Menel Eunice, and joining me today are William Wofford and Robin Alyssa Peterson. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's hit it. Wow. Okay. Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Hi, good.
Hey,
How's everyone doing today?
Pretty good.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a great day. A lot of production, a lot of Trek going on, Trek yesterday, Trek today, Trek tomorrow, and now we're gonna go over the theories and hypotheses, and if that's a word, of what if Wednesdays, because I love what if Wednesdays. This, you know what, Robin? I think this is our first What If Wednesday.
Yes,
Is
there's only
it?
Yeah.
Well,
been
I know
no,
it's
no, no. We had,
mine. Yeah.
yeah,
And
no,
it's
we had
definitely
one other
mine.
episode. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've had one episode before this.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
So
yay. Thanks for having
yeah,
us here,
no
Manny.
problem,
Yeah,
no
thanks,
problem.
Manny.
It's always great to see you guys, honestly. And I want to let you have your space to kind of explore some of these questions that I have for you today. Just to reiterate and see if we can get some interest here going. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment on our videos. We're in the Discord app, we have Anchor, we have Facebook, of course, our YouTube channel. Please at us, let us know what you're thinking, what you're feeling about all this stuff. Thanks for joining us today. So, the format, just to quickly go over, I will do a roundtable where I will throw a what if possibility from the Star Trek canon and
Ooh.
ask you and see what you feel the consequences of this particular change will be to that universe. What do you say, guys?
I feel like we're on Jeopardy. I'm
And
here for it.
yeah, it should be fun. Um,
Yay.
the first question that
Let's
I'll
go.
okay, are you guys ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay, so the first what if that we
Mm-hmm.
have is, and I'll put it on the screen, and then I'll prompt you each to give me your initial reactions, and then we can start to discuss them. The first question I have for you is, what if Kess had
Ooh,
never left Voyager?
dang.
I'll throw it
Oh.
to William
Wow.
first. Go ahead, William.
I, well, okay. I can think of this in two ways. If if Seven had never came on the ship, and Kess had never evolved to her place, which the writers used as an excuse to get her off the ship, without killing her. Um, but but we got to remember the time backwards Picard esque episode that Kess had, where we saw her future, her possible future. She
Yes.
became a mother and a grandmother, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. I
Yep.
believe Tom was her husband and Harry was her son-in-law. If I think so, that was in that possible future. So if that happened, yes, Janeway and B'Elanna would still be alive. Seven probably would have never boarded the ship for some aspect because for whatever writer's reason. So I think
Mm.
Cass would have lived on and became that mother, and then had her daughter and grandson in the process. That's what I think would have happened, but in a different set of circumstantial events. Like the captain would have never died. Year of Hell would have happened a little bit differently. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because final thing, we also got to take into account that the only reason that Janeway was able to avert Year of Hell in the first place was because if you really think about it, Kes went back and told the captain everything that she experienced during her back travel episode. So that's what I think would have happened. I think she would have lived out her day, the rest of her days on Voyager, and that's that.
Robin.
So I agree with Will here. I think that the biggest change made to Voyager is that Year of Hell just kind of doesn't happen because, as you said, the whole thing that it's predicated on is Kes going back to tell Janeway, about, what happened and how they experienced that year. So I know, and I believe this is probably apocrypha, but Year of Hell was originally intended to be a season long arc, I
Right.
William
believe.
mentioned
Correct.
that. William mentioned
Yeah.
that once, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's very hard to kind of so I can see a world where with Kes still on the ship in No 7, and obviously again 7 out of 9 just doesn't exist on the show because there's no need to replace a character with another female character.
Right.
One that's a Borg. Um So I can see like this longer form story happening, with Year of Hell. Maybe things are a little bit different, but maybe the conclusion is, not as settled as we get in that two-parter. Also, I do kind of think that her it's kind of hard to say, right? Because part of it is that this is predicated on like Cass actually gets some very some more development, right? Which could possibly be true. A lot of times Star Trek characters like Bashir, doesn't become, I think, fully formed until the last really couple of seasons to DS9. So there's no telling, where they could have taken that character going forward and how their stories could have touched. I do like the idea that, she becomes a mother. And I also like the idea that she kind of becomes of this little surrogate family that they make on the ship. So I like it. I like this one because it doesn't completely change the ending of Voyager, right? Like I can still see a world where at the end they get back to the series, they get back to Earth in a similar manner that they do, but they're now bringing Cass along and her family, and then and there's someone who has firsthand was born in the Delta Quadrant, actually in the Alpha Quadrant, interacting with Alpha Quadrant species and things like that. And it's good because it doesn't completely change the fabric of the entire series of Voyager, which I like.
William.
I pretty much echo that. Like, I actually agree because it's like if you think about it, it's like the more things change, the more they stay the same. They would have still made it home in the end. Well, like even with Prodigy coming out, we're finding out that the protostar where they are is like located between the Alpha and the Delta Quadrant area. Like not too deep in the Delta, not too deep in the Alpha, but we see different species, which means that there's a sub story that we didn't take into account. Just like with the Doctor's hologram copy story. There's a lot of different things that could happen, which I hope we see the EMH in Discovery, by the way. But to come back to the question. I do believe that they would have still made it home. I do not believe Kes would have lived to see Earth. I don't think that. I don't. I don't think she would have. Because by the time that time travel episode happened, she was a grandmother, and at that point, it wasn't even a full 7 years yet. It was like 4 or 5.
Right. She's short lived.
Right. And when she came back, because we got to remember, Kes did come back for one episode. And now I kind of, on the back burner of my brain, choose not to think about that episode. I think it was just an excuse just to see her again. But because it's like, how are you going to have her turn into a goddess, pretty much, and then she comes back as a decrepit, crippled, dementiated old woman who doesn't remember what happened literally
Mm,
2 years. Like, what did you literally just messed up Kessa's character, and that's a personal opinion. So I'm
Wowzers.
speaking about this theory from the perspective that that did not happen, that will
mm,
not happen. But at the end of the day, she will
mm.
age because Ocampans do not live that long. So no, I don't think. I think her children and grandchildren would have lived to see Earth. I don't think she would have. Just like, and honestly, her and Neelix, even though their breakup scene was never, it was filmed, but it was never aired. They probably would have
Right.
back together, and
Mm,
Neelix probably would have never left Voyager, and he would actually be on that ship home to Earth. If you think about it, if he reconciled with Cass,
Mm.
because the whole reason he left Voyager was because he found he pretty much got a girlfriend. So that's what I think would happen.
Robin.
Well,
mm.
it's like yes and no, Jermaine.
No,
It's
so
like
I agree. I agree with you. I don't. So they did prove in Voyager that the Ocampi live longer, can live longer.
Mm.
So I do think we would get to Earth. I'm not saying she lived to be, 1,000.
it could be like what is Saru species in Discovery?
Kelpian.
The
Kelpian,
Kelpian.
kind of like maybe it's kind of a Discovery thing where she, and I mean that in the literal sense of the word, where she finds out, oh, I can live longer, and maybe that is the case. Maybe it is. I don't know, because I
Interesting.
and that's some lore to explore. But anyway, go ahead, Robin. Yeah.
No. I agree with you mostly. I think the most interesting part of that is you would get, kind of a group or a family of a compi living in the Alpha Quadrant, right? So there's this whole well of stories and that you can go to in other series, right? Be cool. Like, what about a compi in Starfleet? How do you do
Yeah.
that? How do you talk about relations going forward into the Delta Quadrant? Do they try to get some of these species who are on that border? Do they try to do trade, or however that happens? And are those in our Cass's descendants the leaders of that because they have firsthand knowledge, or from Cass about that? And
Right.
obviously the other cast of Voyager too, they would be involved as well. However, like I said, I just with Kes, the thing is, I don't. You would have some interesting avenues to go, but it's just her impact as it is on the story. I don't know if it like has that really interesting ripple effect
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
like, oh, this change, right? Like if you remove Picard, for example, right?
That'd be
You
different.
have no Wolf 359. That's potentially
Sure.
different.
Yeah.
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 So
All right.
you
Well,
know,
I'm gonna get on this and just pop in my little. The first thing that occurs to me if Kess leaves, or sorry, doesn't leave, my bad, is that you could explore. I would say that Kess, in addition to Seven of Nine, because if you don't get Seven of Nine, and Kess is exploring her like powers, then going through Borg space at that point in the Delta Quadrant becomes trickier and different.
That's
So
right.
either
She would have never whooshed them. That's
she
right.
would, that's right, she
mhm,
just Deus Ex Machina them past 10,000 light years, just boom.
merge. Yep.
Ooh, I didn't think of that. I did not think of that.
So you wouldn't have had the associations that the Borg were just like they just popped out of space here and then landed here.
They
Like
just
they
spent
just
another year in Borg space,
yeah.
and that
Yeah,
would have
So
but
been
then
their
again,
hell.
it's Star Trek. Another whoosh exists. Like they would have
Oh
done.
yeah,
right,
there's always a whoosh.
Yeah, there's
so
always a whoosh.
that's all I would have put to that is that it complicates that. But I would have liked to have had both of them there, and I think that would have been
Yeah,
a very interesting
it's a shame they didn't
situation.
really meet other than in sick bay, and even then it was for like all of 2 seconds.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
small overlap there. All
Yeah.
right, well, I'm gonna keep this moving, guys. That was great. I'm
Okay.
really happy with some of that, and mostly
Some of that.
the non-me parts.
Not some
Yeah,
of that. He said some of
no,
that.
some of
I
that.
know
Yeah,
you
I
said
don't.
some of that. Like,
I do
oh,
say.
okay.
I think that uh, the actor choice to yeah, it's just some. the actor choice to like let her go off of the way that they did that and politicize that, I really dislike that. So for me, I think of them as characters rather than as actors, and like what the consequences of the actors would
Mm,
have been, because I don't like that. And so I think about,
yeah,
oh, cast the character left and not the actress. So
yeah.
I don't like that
I
part.
mean, yeah, because if you go in that, like, there's stuff that's come out where like Jerry Ryan really got like the short end of that stick, right? Like Kate Mulgrew, and I love Kate Mulgrew, but she did not treat
She
Jerry
didn't play
Let's
Ryan
nice.
be real.
the
They had
best
a
on
cat.
screen.
They had multiple cat fights on set, and
Yeah.
Harry. I'm sorry. The actor's name. Lord have mercy. What is it? Harry's actor's name. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Garrett.
Garrett
Um,
Wang,
Yeah.
thank you.
Wong,
Well,
Wong, Wong.
so he's pretty much the baby of the show, and he admitted that at a panel. And oftentimes he would be in tears watching them. Excuse me, watching them fight,
Mhm.
and he would keep that. He kept that to himself. Like Jerry never knew that. Like he
Mm.
would always like man up and then walk around the corner, then
Mm.
and it's just like, oh my god, you were like 24 back then. I want to hug you right now. And so it just makes you feel so bad for them. And you know what? And I'll say this, and then I'll pass it on to Robin, who I believe will have a more better viewpoint than mine. I think that it is mainly the producer's fault and the writer's fault
Oh,
for this,
definitely.
because this has nothing to do with. I mean, it's the clash between Kate and Jerry were the result,
Yeah.
not the catalyst. It was the result. Where
Oh,
the
let's.
catalyst was, hey, let's put this woman in a cat suit and make her the sex icon. Let's do
Yeah.
that. Okay. I'll
Yeah.
be honest. They did that to Marina Sirtis and TNG, but not to the extent that they did Seven. They
Hmm.
put her in a suit that she literally could not breathe in. She hated wearing that Borg suit each time. Even when they did Shattered in like season 7, she had to wear it one more time, you know? And she had to like lose like 10 pounds just to fit in it. And it was the exact same one. And
Yikes.
so so that clash was like the result. And I think it's like the way it all happened and not it being done properly, all this stuff is
Mm.
sexist as hell in my opinion. And I
Yeah.
just
Fair.
can't stand it.
No,
I
that's
mean, like,
fine.
that's part of what came out in recent years, right? Like, Kate Mulgrew eventually was like, yeah, it wasn't, I realized coming to terms with this, like, it wasn't Jerry's fault, right? But she felt threatened, right? Her position on the show felt threatened because she's like, why is this younger woman coming in? Why are they having her, in a cat suit? Why don't
Younger,
they
blonde,
younger?
skinny, like
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah, it's like, why don't they think that young boys can look up to someone like me? Why do they feel like for that kind of audience, like they need to throw someone in a cat suit? She felt very insulted, and again, we need to move on. So I'm
No,
not going to belabor the point,
no, it's all good. Listen, if
but
it's real,
Yeah.
yeah,
if it's authentic, I want it. I want it.
And
I
then
like
and
that.
then to home in on that with the last point before we move to our third question is, if you think about it, Borg children came on the ship anyway and did not look up to Janeway. They looked up to Seven. So it's like a double doozy, right?
right.
It's just like, not only do I not get like a young male figure to look up to me, now it's like they got to look up to her. But in the sense, now Kate Mulgrew is kind of getting what she asked for in Prodigy. So
Okay. You guys
as
ready for
far
the
as
second
as far
question?
as like someone looking up to her, that's not like this casted sex icon. These are teenagers,
Of course, of course.
like what each of them. What? Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm gonna keep it moving. Thank you, guys. No, I
Mm-hmm.
know there's a lot there. I didn't realize that we were plumbing such depth on Kess, but I guess yeah, a lot of people have things to say about Voyager and how it was done. And the last thing I'll say on that is it's a product of the times. There's
Oh,
context there that
absolutely.
you
Oh
just
yeah.
can't do right, and so now at least maybe hopefully we'll get
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
better. Yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
So
it's a
my
better thing for FTP.
Oh yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, right. Stuff is
Yes.
born out of the
Yes.
ashes of those
Absolutely.
things.
File transfer protocol. Yeah.
I thought you started talking about fight the patriarchy.
We are.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Marie. Anyway, all right, go ahead.
My next question comes to us from Robin, actually.
Oh, you got a question?
Her question, what if the Terran Empire conquered the Prime timeline? I'm very fascinated with her thinking on this and what she's developed in this thinking. So, Robin, please tell us, what were you thinking with this question?
So, so we all know that the Terrans are completely dominate their universe up until the DS9 era, right? And then we don't know quite what happened, I believe, in the text, but we do know that at some point the Klingons, Bajorans, and rose up and were able to kind of squish that. So I love the little Terran symbol.
Yeah. I got Hoshi too. I got Hoshi.
Like it, like she is the ancestor of Emperor Jojo, right?
Right, right,
Yeah.
Okay, because that would have made sense. Like,
right.
okay, so it's a family line. That's cool.
I looked for those,
That's
yeah, to see like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay, they infiltrate our universe and they take it over.
Yeah, so around
Interesting.
so at the height. I'm thinking TOS series, right? They
Okay.
have their crossover event with Kirk and Spock and everything. And then they decide, you know what? We want that. So I mean, like, you can go so many different directions with this, right? You can
Yes.
go in a direction where, like, well, what if every event happened but just with Terrans, right? So what would happen with the Dominion? What would happen to the Borg? Or, or that. Or you can go, what new threats come arise, right? How do the Klingons react to a completely dominant Terran empire? And
Mm-hmm.
then what kind of reaction does that have on the other side of the multiverse, where you have an entire empire just dominating a double one? So there are just too many ways you can take this.
We need Doctor Strange in on this, like, because now we're talking about one. Because if you, side note, if you watch, not WandaVision, but Loki. If you watch Loki, the season finale, this kind of alludes to that. It's like
Hmm.
they kept the universes separate because of that reason. What if
Hmm.
one universe conquers another, then conquers another? I believe there was a what if scenario where
Yes.
Ultron got all seven Infinity Stones and conquered every universe, and then he
Yes.
was
Hmm.
lonely. I think it was something like that. So that's why they, at all costs, they have to be separated. So that's where I think it would go. I
Mm.
actually have a theory about how and when they would conquer the Prime Universe.
Ooh.
I think that I don't think it would have. All right, hear me out. I don't think it would have happened during the regular Terran Empire. I think it would have happened at the end when the Klingons and the Cardassians and everything, they banded together and they took over Terrans and made them slaves. I think. Hold on, hold on, hold on,
Wait,
hold on, hold
okay,
on.
all right.
I
Let
think she
me.
sees where I'm
Yep.
going.
Hmm.
And the thing with humanity is all it takes is one good spark of hope, and they will do whatever they have to do to, well, survive, live, and then thrive. Well,
Hmm.
there was a moment, a brief moment, in the first Mirror Universe episode of D Space Nine, where Bashir and Kira thought they were in their prime universe. They were not, and they almost spoke about the wormhole. They almost spoke about it. Now you got to remember that same wormhole was used to even cross there in the first place. So they had to shut up about it, because if they didn't, they would have followed him right back. Like Smiley would have found a way
Hmm.
and found his way in the back of that thing. He would have grabbed the shuttle, went back and forth, went back and forth. That would have literally been their underground railroad.
Hmm. Hmm.
Interesting.
Hmm.
They would have came in, used their old Terran ideals, took over that Alpha Quadrant. What you think?
I so that is such a good point across because just
Because
so
that's the way they escape slavery.
everything happens in the 21st century, so it's perfect, right? You can, again, like I said, you can do the, well, because now we actually we have the same history as the original series up until the Dominion War. So now you have, well, how are the Dominion going to react to Terrans? How, once the Terrans are on our side, what the hell are they going to do with that wormhole, right? Like how, cross galaxy conquering. What if they do what the Dominion? How could, what if they did a bigger, better Dominion, right?
Hmm.
And in our universe, we know the Klingons and Earth are aligned, at least. Ooh,
Right? It just opens a whole door, you know?
because where I was thinking, I because where I thought you were going originally, I thought you were saying so. You kept my point of crossover that I thought in the TOS, and then you have
Okay.
kind of like a Kinnemer Accords, but cross multiverses. So everyone knows that there's other universes out there,
Ooh,
right? And they
I think that's
interact
what would
like,
happen in the end. I think that's what would happen
yeah.
in the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Because before you
Ooh.
can even have the Kittimer chords of multiverses, there has to be that battle, that conquering thing first. So I think that would have your point would happen before mine would even come to fruition. So I think no wait, or mine would first. There'd be the fight, then there'd be you know, like Undiscovered Country. Well, you know. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I did not think about that. I did not think about that. I think that that's pretty valid, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well,
You
okay. I'm
deserve
just
it.
gonna throw my 2 cents in here about the Terran Empire. There are a few moments where I think that they could have successfully conquered them. Now, one thing I will point out is one of the reasons that Smiley brought Cisco back was to create the Defiant because the technology wasn't at the same level. They didn't have the Federation to play off of.
Mm.
So the Cardassians and Klingons, they had it, but they were still, because they were so infighting, their technology had sort of stagnated. They hadn't or they haven't encountered the Romulans in a certain way. Although I do believe that they were at the Revolution meeting in DS9 when they were like trying to rile up, and Tuvok was there and stuff, and they were and
Mm-hmm.
Bashir punched him in the face. So they were there. So maybe like I feel like some technologies haven't been discovered in the Terran Empire,
Mm.
even though they had the
Okay.
boost. You're right, even though they had a boost. If they did take over or tried to take over like other universes, there are existential threats still in their own universe, like the Borg, like Species 8472, like the
Ooh.
Dominion, that are just waiting out there, kind of just and Q. There's Q, right? So there's like all stuff
And
that's
there's
native to that universe, right? Still to be done. Um, and so I could see a lot of interplay where at the end of the series, it almost seems like the Terrans are rising up and becoming like good, like us, like they took the long way around, like the
mm.
revolution, right? But but I don't know if you guys agree necessarily because it doesn't have to be um, the case. Go
What
ahead,
do you
I
think?
Robert.
mean, I definitely could see something like that happening, right? Like you, because we know that in, again, the original crossover episode, just being in contact with Spock, that did spark at least a little bit of change in
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Terrans, right? So I can totally see that happening, right? Like, yeah, they can come across and conquer, but then they start actually listening to humans, like Picard gets in their ears or Cisco gets in their ear, right? And then
Hmm.
they start getting these funny ideals about equality, democracy, working with your, I totally can see that happening. Um, and again, that actually goes kind of in how our, both me and Will's points kind of turn into, right? Because my thing was we ended with the Kittimer Accords, but
That's
across
how it ends.
dimension,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how they get to that point. They're changed by humanity. They're changed by our universe, right? So that's cool.
It
That's
would have
dope.
been nice if by the point of discovery they had reached that Kittimer Accords.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would have been a beautiful, beautiful opening to different stories, but instead they split apart in the universes. So I really don't have much for that because it's like I kind of mirror everything that Robin had just said.
That's
So
okay. That's all right.
yeah,
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it and
go ahead,
package that
man.
up. That I love that. Thank you so much, guys. That was really interesting. just the expounding and trying to lead that in different spaces. I love that we have we see these things in different ways, and so we can see the trajectories in different ways, and then by sort of discussing them, we can kind of reflect on the greater universe. So, I have one last question. It's the golden question for
Ooh,
today. Yeah, it's the big stand. I hope you enjoy it.
it's a big kahuna.
Ooh-wee.
Let's do it.
My
What's
golden
up?
question for today revolves around the episode "The Pegasus" from TNG.
Ooh, uh-oh.
Do you remember that episode?
I do.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The episode in TNG that just happened to be the last episode of Enterprise. Yep.
What? The last
Y'all,
episode of
y'all
Enterprise?
did y'all did know that, right?
No.
Wait,
Oh, right.
is the
Yes, yes,
last
yes,
season
yes.
Enterprise?
That's
Is that
right.
him from the Pegasus? That's supposed to be
Yes.
him from the Pegasus? Oh my
That's right. Yeah,
Y'all
god!
didn't
yeah.
know that?
You're right. You're
See,
right. You're right.
that's
You're right.
why
You're
I
right. You're
don't
right.
like Enterprise, y'all.
He goes back and forth to Troy, and they talk about him making a moral decision. Yes,
Yeah.
That's why I don't like Enterprise,
I
y'all.
forgot about that.
What is wrong with you? What?
It's
I
it's a
know Jermaine sees my face right now. Like,
yeah.
like,
So it's
I am
yes,
confused.
that's very true. That is very true. That in that episode, in the last episode of Enterprise, it revolves around Riker being in a holodeck, and then going back and forth and playing the chef on Enterprise, wondering how they were because he wanted to know about making a moral. Going to Admiral Pressman about this because he had had his conversation with Picard and he didn't know, and Troy was counseling them. They're visibly older and stuff, but it's fine. So my question from that episode is:
Okay.
after the Pegasus, what would have happened? What if the Federation developed a joint science team with the Romulans to mass produce the phasing technology from that episode? This very unique technology.
I think they already did.
What do you mean?
They didn't hand that cloaking device over to the Defiant for no reason. It
Mm.
wasn't a phasing cloaking device, but it was still a cloaking device at the end of the day.
Nice.
Still.
Yeah,
I think, yeah. Go ahead, Robin. Don't take it away. Like,
no, I just like straight up. You have at that point you have Romulans as like a part straight up of the Federation. Like they're just like and I will say that you won't have it in a place where, like I think their strength blow up, or at least it's not as devastating to the
well,
Romulans.
it would have blown.
It-
Uh, okay. Two
the
things.
disaster would have happened, but it wouldn't be devastating because they have that technology that
They have the
can use
technology.
to save.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but we also gotta take into account that this would also affect the relationship with the Klingons as well. Unless
the Klingons would have revoked the Kinemurkroids.
immediately,
Like,
immediately. I-
immediately.
I believe technologically they would have been superior because, like, yeah, Romulans are a bunch of jerks, but they're not. They do have some technology. They have a freaking quantum singularity as their power source. Like Klingons are, they're smart. You know, we've learned that there are smart ones, but for the most part, they're warriors and they just love glory. You know, that's what they like, right? I feel like we're straying from the question, but I really do. I'm going to read the question one more time. After Pegasus, the Federation developed joint science teams with the Romulans to mass produce phasing technology. If they're going to do that, Section 31 is all over that. It's just all over that. Without question. It's
So
really,
really, yeah.
All up in the sauce. Just all over the
all
sauce.
up in it. Section 31, but me personally, I think it was done already. I think it already happened. I think the Pegasus was a Section 31 thing in the first place between Section 31 and the Tal Shiar.
Really?
Tashiar?
I think
Actually, you know
I
what?
really
I
do.
can see that. Yeah,
Right.
I can see that.
But
Yeah.
they needed a fall guy. Which had to be Admiral Pressman.
Yeah, I
Because if
actually
the plan doesn't work, there has to be a fall guy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't actually. Well, because this is a little bit before they introduced Section 31, so maybe I can't say like
Well,
that was definitely their
I,
intention. Because
well, I think there was a Section 31 moment in Enterprise and Discovery.
okay,
Yes,
So
no,
they've
yes.
always.
I'm not talking.
I
I'm
mean,
not
they
talking
went
about in the timeline because we know that Section 31 goes
and
back
always
Oh, you
probably.
existed.
mean you mean in the story?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Well, yeah, that
It,
makes sense. They would have never even thought of Section 31 at the
no, it
time.
wasn't in.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But again, it was there if you go back and you
yeah,
retcon it that it was always there. So
yeah.
okay,
Oh, yeah, but yeah, all of
interesting.
the sauce.
I think so.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that okay. So let's say they do develop this technology, and
Okay.
at this point where they phase out. So let me just throw up the. By the way, I wanted to point out this was also the same day that it was Captain Picard Day in that episode.
Oh,
Oh my god.
So we have
when
we
is
have
Don't
the
Captain
give the
Picard
Picard.
Day?
Let's not give the
wow.
Picard writers any ideas. God.
This is the actual technology. This is the screenshot of the technology. It's who knows what this thing is based off of. Who knows who made it in secret? Maybe they were. The fact that you had both cloaking and phasing at the same time.
Hmm.
Uh, our cloaking, it means that the Treaty of Algeron, which is what originally stopped us from doing it, we either were working with the Klingons or the Romulans. They were the only other two known species that had cloaking out there in the open in that space.
Hmm.
So maybe this was, their way. Maybe we created a phasing part of that technology because Section 31 was working with the Tal Shiar, and there's a version of it in the Klingon one, but I can't remember their name of their secret police.
Ooh,
They talk about it in
Remind
DS9
me.
one point.
the Dominion
Remind
would have
me.
never
Do
stood a chance.
Romulans have phasing technology? Because I know that they
No,
don't use like. No. Okay.
they don't.
So.
No, what they did was Pressman never really got into the details of it, but they
Mm,
just said that a bunch of high elites in the Federation got together with some secret scientists, and Pegasus was it was an experiment. We'll admit it was an experiment, a
yeah.
failed experiment,
Most
but
of
an
them.
experiment. And they broke, but they had to break the treaty in order to make it happen. I don't think they broke nothing. I think they worked together, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
And yeah, so they got into phasing technology, and honestly, that would have made them, not even arguably, that would have made them the most superior power in the Alpha Quadrant alone, unless the board got their hands on it. And if it does, it's game over. It's game over because
Mm.
you can't come back from that
And I like, I
unless.
mean, like, just proves that it was an experiment for this because like this was after the Borg, right? So we know the Federation is looking for new technology specifically to fight the Borg, to fight and
Yes,
protect themselves in Federation space against the Borg. We don't. So I don't think it's said much in the series, but the Romulans are probably thinking the same thing, right?
they
Because if
have
you
to.
have something that can, they absolutely have to because that's I believe straight up that's the reason why they were so quick to sign the pact with the Dominion at the beginning of the Dominion War because they were like, oh shit, like we don't want we let's not get involved with this thing that the Federation seems to not like we can't stand up to that, so let's just
Yeah,
sidestep it
yeah,
altogether. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And we also have to take into account that, to add to Robin's point, there were a couple of Romulans that ended up being assimilated, that Chakotay found on that planet,
right.
that came from that dead cube. You know, so the Romulans have just as much of a problem with the Borg as the Federation does. Now, the Federation is
Mm-hmm.
a more tempting target, but I think Cisco was making a point to the Romulan ambassador. When the Dominion is done with the Federation, who are they going to go after next? When the Borg is done with the Federation, who are they going to go after
Who are they
next?
gonna after?
They're a swarm. That's what they do. So I think if they get their hands on that, and they probably did, because we got to remember that. Speaking of phasing technology, I'll say this, and then we're gonna go. Then we're gonna finish out. Um, Janeway brought Admiral Janeway from the alternate future, brought back
Mm-hmm.
transphasic torpedoes, not
Right.
quantum torpedoes,
The
transphasic.
translating. Yep.
So who's to say that something happened in between those two timelines where they needed transphasic torpedoes? Maybe they did end up using that technology, and they
Yeah.
needed it.
She also specifically pointed out that that was to fight the Borg. In when
Mm,
she, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, it's a response to the. It's completely a Tal Shiar Section 31
It sounds like it.
secret black ops,
So for
right?
me,
To fight the Borg.
I also think now that we have retconned what was happening at the time, you have
Mm,
the Zat Vash, the
The Zatvash,
Romulan
yeah.
conspiracy,
mhm,
anti AI technology thing that was also maybe in charge of the Tal Shiar. Like they were behind the
mhm,
scenes, like moving at really high levels, even in the
mm.
Federation security, right? Like they were like, we have to ensure that no AI is really like taking over. So maybe they were, maybe a part of them was just super anti Borg and was working with like other, like why don't the Cardassians have cloaking technology? That bothers me.
You
I
know,
never
you can even
understood.
you
Go
can
ahead,
take
go
it
ahead.
even further, right? You can go, how does this play into the burn, right? Like you can
Right.
make that connection between fight having this transwarp based technology, fighting the Borg. Then you have the Jat Vash, in the Picard timeline, and then you have the burn, and then all of a sudden, God, I sound like I need a tinfoil hat. God. So it all kind of connects into this one like super. And again, mm, let me not, because we're gonna go over.
Say, what are you saying? No, no, no. What do you mean?
Mm. Just saying, it all connects. It's
Yes,
all
yes.
one big. It's all
No,
a
I get
connection.
it. I've
Yeah.
always, and I will say this as a running thread throughout all of these podcasts. I think that the looming existential threat of the new AI from the Picard timeline is the new big bad. It's going to outshine the Borg. It's going to outshine everything. It's going to be now. If they bring that into Discovery, that would be epic. That there's some like threat outside. Either it's a transdimensional, like it's outside of our dimension and working its way in, or transgalactic, and then it's got an Iconian gate or something. Like they have the ability to just pop in whenever they've been signaled.
I still think they are the ones who sent V'ger. I still think that.
Could
I
be.
still think that. I believe it.
No,
It
I
is
V'ger
completely
too much
valid and it
being.
worked.
I like the theory that V'ger too is human hubris. I like that theory too much. I can't go there.
I'm sorry. It came from Kirk said it himself. It came from like a city or a world of technology, robot, android people. Like he didn't really
Yeah.
specify, but I really think that. I really
The
think that.
last point that I will
Mm,
throw in there, and I just want to point it out, I mentioned it before in the chat, was that we were given a movie, Star Trek Insurrections,
Oh,
and one of the things that they tried to do was to move this huge, not huge, but a population off the planet, and they used a hollow ship. So if you can see what I'm seeing right now, um,
mhm,
this is a Federation hollow ship which has been fitted with a cloaking device.
mhm.
Now, I'm just curious about your takes on that. How did we have cloaking technology in Star Trek Insurrections?
this happened after the
Pegasus, right?
cloaking
Yeah.
device was given to the Defiant. So it
Yeah.
and after the Pegasus, so it's
Ah,
conceivable that the Federation has always had cloaking technology,
Yeah.
always, and that
Yeah.
admiral was breaking rules out the water, literally out the water,
Yeah.
anyway. So of course he would have access to technology he wasn't supposed to
Mm.
gotcha.
use.
Yeah. I feel like part of the picture that Picard is going to eventually paint, and I'm not saying this is for next series because we kind of know what where next series is going, but part of the fuzzy picture where Picard is going to paint about this time period is that we are going to see this slow walking of the Romulans into the Federation Klingon, conglomerate alpha beta quadrant thing, and like in our own world, in our own time, like the initial overtures to that are technology, right? So it started with the cloaking device from the Defiant and the Pegasus. And then we have now the cloaked hollow ship, right? And then we're just going to get snowball into more and more and more and more and more. Now, where it gets clandestine and where it gets like, ooh, we have Section 31 here and the Tashiar here. Again, it's as you said, Manny, what force are they fighting, right? Like since the biggest overarching theme in modern Trek now is the transition of technology, right? What are they fighting, and why were these and why was this slow walking of the Romulans into the Federation Klingon alliance necessary?
William,
At
well, she
some
has a
point,
sip.
at some point during Picard, the Romulans have to go to Vulcan anyway and create Navarre. That's all I gotta say. At some point, and we may see that as and then we also have to keep in mind that at this point, Vulcan is still part of the Federation, which means the Romulans are about to become part of the Federation too.
Yep.
Interesting.
And that's
Yep.
how they would do it, which I feel like would add to the point that Robin had just made.
And then nicely, a Romulan, just kind of in the late 30th century after the burn, goes, hey, what if we were not a part of that? Right? And then we have the dissolution of the Federation. And now, one of the big reveals that I think we're going to get in Discovery, and this is so far off topic, is that, what's her name? The main negotiator. Oh, what's her name?
Negotiator.
Really?
The president?
Not the president, the from Navarre. What's
Oh, the
her
president
name?
of Navarre. Oh, I forget her name.
Yeah.
Trelane? Sharina.
Tarina.
Tarina.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things is that we're going to find out about her is that she's part of the Tal Shiar, and I will stand by that.
She has heritage.
Yep.
She seems sweet.
And
Really?
if they let a human into the Zhat Vash, then why not? Right?
It could have been resolved, but I mean, the context is just so far in the future. What I want to know what happens with Picard, right? They've already like mentioned the synths and like oh, they did this in the 5th century with Picard
With the
and his
android
body.
body. Yeah.
Right. Let's just access the
Yeah.
file on the Zafash and like let's access the file on section 31. And oh, just by the way, did you know all these secret societies were running around like crazy?
Mhm.
So I mean I get it. I don't know what to say. I think that if the phasing technology was being secretly developed, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that after all this time the Federation did this and borrowed all this technology unless they had struck a deal. They still think in their hearts that they're the good guys. I will sometimes, like, I have a cousin who sometimes argues about the insidious nature of the Federation.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been a ploy to bring the, like, even, who's the bad guy in the DS9 episode? He thought it was Valjean to his, it was a Les Mis parable. Eddington.
Yeah, Michael Eddington.
Eddington, yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
you want even Cardassia to take its like rightful place in the Federation, and so that's why you're like sending them these industrial like replicators or whatever. I think that the Federation just pictures itself as this huge conglomerate, and no one leaves paradise. And they wanted to make the like maybe they're striking deals all over the place just to as peace feelers, and also to push like they want to be the dominant technological power, and they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and the Romulans just showed up that day and they're like, we know exactly where to look, but we were just going to see, we want to grab this from you, because they always they're not aggressive in the same way. They wait for other people to make a mistake and then they swoop in. They're defensive, but they have maximum defense when they do it. They just show up in force.
It would have made more sense if the Romulans had caused the burn, but we're not going to talk about that. Because I ain't gonna lie, I was pissed when I found that explanation. I was pissed. I was like,
the actual reason,
the Kelpian, the actual reason, the Kelpian who lost it, bless his heart for losing. I lost my mother too, but I was right there. I was literally right there. I feel his pain, but damn,
yeah. I mean, he was being exposed to all this dilithium his whole life. Maybe it messed with him.
I know the reason. It's a valid reason. He born and raised there. I get all that. It's just like, that's what y'all chose.
Yeah. I get it.
It's a good reason, scientifically ish.
I
Ish.
guess the fact
I
that you
don't
have
know.
this one person who can like affect subspace on this huge level,
That's
and
what I'm
then
saying.
they're
Like
not.
a
Yeah,
child.
yeah.
Like,
It's
so this
strange.
child cries one time, and he can blow up half the galaxy in the process.
Right.
And no, the time shift relativity, no Q, nothing. No one was there
No one's
to.
showing up. Yeah.
None of that.
Y'all are making this timeline as complicated as the Doctor Who timeline. Oh my god.
I don't care how. Well, I was weak too. You
I
don't
get
give a
it.
fuck. Come on now.
Yeah, Q don't.
No, don't say Q don't care. Don't say Q don't care now.
You don't give a shit.
We'll find out pretty soon if
No,
Q
no, the
cares.
Q continuum
We'll
might
find out.
not, but the Jean Delancey's Q will. Well, at least we'll find out.
Picard died 800 years ago. Q don't give a shit.
Man, Picard might be a Q right now for all we know.
They could be, yeah.
See?
We just don't know. And they're shooting all of those Picards back to back so that, we can get as much in.
Well, yeah, the
God
man's
bless.
in his 80s.
You don't know how
gotta
much
shoot
you're
them
going to
all
get
while you
from them.
can.
Yeah, shoot them all.
I am living for like the Patrick Stewart, John DeLance romance.
Yeah.
I want that.
And
life.
I
I'm ready
think
for
William, you mentioned that LeVar Burton didn't get tapped for the second season.
He didn't. No.
Did they get
Now,
Whoopi
it is
back
possible.
though? 'Cause
It
they
is
get
possible we will see Whoopi Goldberg come back.
Yeah.
Now, because he asked her in a public setting, which you knew they kind of planned on the back end of it.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart asked Whoopi Goldberg on The View to come in for the second season of Picard, and she said yes. Now you knew. Now I'm like, you don't really do something as bold as that unless you talk about it in the back room first.
Oh yeah, they had reached out to her,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna see her. We're gonna see who else we're gonna see. We're obviously gonna see Q. I'm sorry. I think LeVar Burton will make it to maybe season 4 or 5. We're gonna
Really?
see them later on. That's what I believe. That's what I truly believe. There might not be. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, honestly, I was actually thinking we might see some DS9 people back.
I was gonna say they
have
approached Miles O'Brien. They approached
Yeah.
the actor who plays Cole Meany. Did you
He's
see
just
that?
too busy now, though. He's doing a
I think he's a
bunch of movies.
professor at Starfleet.
In canon, yes.
And yeah.
And there's even a statue of him in Lower Decks.
Yes, as the greatest. The greatest.
Praise
officer
Miles
ever.
O'Brien.
Yeah, greatest.
All hail Chief Engineer O'Brien.
And I ain't gonna lie, that is pretty cool because he endured a lot. He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
He's a pivotal. I mean, if there's a what if he didn't join DS9?
They would have never got that station working. They would have never got it work because he combined Federation, Bajoran, and Cardassian technology in the middle of the Dominion War while suffering 3 forms of PTSD. So
that station would be like a wreckage in Bajor on one of Bajor's 9 moons.
I swear to God, they would have never found the wormhole.
No, they would not have found the wormhole.
They would not have found it.
No.
Bashir would have been on there in the wilderness by his damn self.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bashir wouldn't have his husband. I mean,
no, none of that. And then you don't get the stuff with Kywin and Miles's wife, Keiko, and
Golden Khan is actually not crazy in that universe. He's a normal guy. I said Golden Khan is not crazy in a universe where Miles is not on DS9 because he just went back to Cardassia.
You know what?
And became a politician.
Now that I think about it, without Miles there, Bashir probably would have joined Section 31.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually recently been obsessively thinking about the episode where they try to catch the green species, the Orion Syndicate. I've been playing that episode over in my head over and over again, and they catch them trying to set up the Romulans. Everyone took a break. I don't know what happened. Did we?
No,
look at the chat. Look at the chat.
What did I do?
Jermaine literally just hushed Robbie. Just put her on hush mode. Girl, you are in timeout. I know she's the baby of the family, but come on.
No.
Don't do that.
What did I do?
You gotta put my baby sis all on the line. Why you do that? I'm sorry, guys. We're in a chat room and we can see this all simultaneously, and our our Trekkers Delight dad just literally put Robin in hush mode.
Mm-mm-mm.
I'm confused with what
Like
I
he just
said.
low
I
key
don't.
grounded her. He low key
Was
grounded her.
did I not speak the truth?
He
Yes.
girl, he sent you away like Worf sent away Alexander.
Oh my god.
Take
That's
your
so
behind back to Earth.
harsh. That's so
And
Bashir, that's
mean. It's
denial.
so mean.
like that's just
Bashir.
rude.
It's because I
That
said,
is
"Oh,
so
come on,
rude.
Carrick is Bashir's husband. I don't care about X-ray. I'm sorry."
Oh my god.
Oh, today was
Whew.
a great episode, guys.
Did you like
It was
it?
wonderful. It was
I'm
wonderful,
glad.
and
Thanks.
kudos to you, Manny, for keeping us in line, keeping it in order.
It's all
Yeah.
You've
good.
done good with the time. We've actually made perfect time.
Yeah.
And this is great. You know,
I'm
it's
glad.
like because we
Man,
got into a lot and still had fun. Thank you so
I'm,
much.
no
yeah.
problem. Thank you.
You know
Manny's
what? It
like,
doesn't have to
that
be
was
30
not
minutes,
30
Jermaine, okay?
minutes.
Thank you. You need to be
No.
quiet. I'm sorry, guys. See, Jermaine is going on in the chats. Like,
Of
listen here.
course.
Look, hold on. Look here. It ain't gotta be 30 minutes. It can be 1 hour. There you
Every
go.
time we've said 30 minutes, it's meant 1 hour. That's what we meant. That's what
Thank
we
You
you.
sh-
meant.
what
We are
you
on
should do
track
is you should
time.
say
We are
15
on track
minutes,
time.
because then it'll
Time
actually
moves
be
slower.
30 minutes.
Time moves slower. I'm
I was
sorry.
afraid we didn't have enough content. I was,
We
I
had
was I
more
didn't
than
know what
enough.
we.
Look,
We have
I
more than
got,
enough.
I put on my tinfoil hat today, okay? We were
Nice.
going.
Nice.
We were in it.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad you liked it. And there was a lot there. I didn't, and it went into a lot of places that I didn't expect. So I'm really happy to have the two of you on this sort of thing because, when we talk about these things, you never know. We're starting to get each other a little bit better, and we can start to reference a little things about those things. So for me, like DS9, it plays a huge role in how I like see Star Trek, and I think of it as like it doesn't really get the recognition. It doesn't really. So I tend to ask those types of questions simply because I want to bring them to the fore. But this TNG episode with this golden question, this phasing and unphasing question, it really bothers me that they have these throwaway things in Star Trek sometimes, and it doesn't make
Mhm.
sense in the canon. Why isn't it not a larger part? And so, conspiratorially, I think it's. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's what makes it fun because clearly they had a plan for it, right? Like it might not have been like our thing with like, oh, Romul, the Tashiar working with Section 31 to, or whatever. But they clearly had a plan for it, a
Yeah,
pattern for it to go to, right? There was clearly the writers had in their mind a Romulan Federation storyline where they work together.
yeah.
That's very apparent in the tag. So
And now we're getting that. We're finally getting
yeah.
that in the later stuff. Yeah, you're seeing it in
Right.
Picard. You're seeing it. Maybe we'll see it in Strange New Worlds. You never know.
Honestly,
Oh, I can't wait for Strange
I
New
will
Worlds. It's gonna be
say
so good.
to Manny's earlier point, Deep Space Nine does not get the recognition it deserves. I love Marina Sirtis, but it kind of annoys me when she refers to Deep Space Nine as deep sleep. And it's wrong.
Not boring.
It's not sleep. Deep Space Nine is quite literally the only Star Trek show that interconnects every single show, every single
Yeah.
one, even as
Yeah.
far as Prodigy. And that's because through Janeway to Voyager to Deep Space Nine, it literally Picard. We saw the Bajoran tablet that was broken in pieces. Okay,
Talk
by that
about that
point,
for a second.
yeah, like
Like,
Discovery
we're
and
getting-
Discovery. Good morning. Like
Yeah.
there's so much. I'm hoping that they use that freaking wormhole in Discovery at some point, like as some sort of escape excuse on the season finale. When their spore drive doesn't work. Something like that. Like.
My thing is Deep Space Nine is the richest Star Trek show in terms of lore,
Oh yeah.
right? All of the lore that we get is from DS9. I love me some TNG. Like, hey, give me some William Riker and that beard any day. Yes. But for good theory crafting, for good like what ifs, just DS9 is where you need to go, right?
Very sure.
There's stuff
Yeah.
in TOS, there's stuff in TNG, there's stuff in Enterprise, there's stuff in Voyager, but it all connects to DS9.
I feel like we
All
never
those.
got the vindication of like a DS9 movie or anything, and so that's why I lament that way. William.
Mhm.
I hope they do something because I've seen throughout a little bit of Picard and mostly Discovery where they keep nodding their head to Enterprise over and over and over again. So what I'm hoping is that with Picard and ongoing seasons in the future of other Star Trek shows, they give more nods to Deep Space Nine, which would hopefully bring, if not a short film, a future feature length film for Deep Space Nine because they need it. They deserve it.
I think I think that's harder now. Like Avery Brooks is not going to come back to do a
He said that he
DS9
would.
movie.
He said that he would. Jake Sirach Lofton said that he had spoken to him.
Oh, okay. They
That
are
kind of
very
changes
close.
things a bit.
Yeah,
He,
they are quite close.
Yeah,
it's his other
and they
son. If he told him to come back, did you guys
and
catch?
yeah, I just saw something that Jermaine just put it in the chat. That put in the chat. It's the next.
Ah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it is.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. I'm gonna say our goodbyes. I'm really happy that you were here. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed this content, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit us up in our Discord app. Hit us on Anchor, on YouTube. Check us out. Let us know what you think, what kind of questions that you're interested in. Thank you so much to our guests today, Robin and William. Thank you for joining me today on What If Wednesdays. Thank you so much for being here and all of your wonderful stories. I can't wait to see you next time, and I hope to try this again soon.
Bye.